So as saxophone players, what makes a really memorable melody? I'm talking about a melody in your solo, in your improvising, that you're really proud of, that connects with your audience, that takes your music on a journey. In this video, we're going to talk about this because this week I've been hanging out with an old buddy of mine who's an absolute legend in the movie and TV writing world. So he's written for TV shows that have been broadcast to millions and millions of people all around the world. He's a fantastic musician called Jamie Forsyth. So stick around in this lesson because we're going to be talking about this question. Now this whole thing about melody, I get asked about it a load inside sax school, whether it's playing melodies that are memorable for a solo, or whether it's knowing how to create a melody in a band setting that works with the sort of framework of other musicians. But either way, it's definitely something that we need to explore more and most of us overlook. By the way, if you want to find out more about sax school, there's thousands of people using my library of lessons to help learn about things like improvising or the blues, or developing specific skills like playing altissimo or overtones or just general technique. And you get a 30-day trial at mcgillmusic.com. I'll put a link up here for you actually. So let's get stuck in with this interview. I had a great chat with Jamie. He's a super interesting guy. Check out what he says about melody. So Jamie, although we met years and years ago doing cruise ships, then you're now doing loads of TV music. So you're writing for all sorts of shows, right? What sort of shows are you writing for these days?
Writing for, well, it's been a lot over the years. Jessica Jones is one now, Marvel show, coming back for season 3 in August. Elementary will be coming back for season 7.
Cool.
That's what's coming up.
That's mega, man. So you're doing tons of music and writing music that's reaching lots and lots of people. Now I was thinking, so in sax school we've got tons of people who are learning to play saxophone, learning to improvise. And one of the biggest hurdles I think when you're starting to improvise is getting around that whole concept of what makes an interesting melody, because it's easy to come up with melodies.
Lots of notes, as many notes as you can fit. Usually as many notes as you can possibly play.
Yeah. See, that's what most people think, but that's probably not the truth, right? So here's the thing. If you're in the business of making great, memorable melodies that millions of people listen to all over the world.
I like to think so.
Yeah, okay. So it's the same whether you're writing something for a hit TV show that's going to be broadcast everywhere, or whether you're creating a memorable jazz solo. It's the same principle. It comes down to making good melody. So what do you think about melody? What is it that makes a melody better or more interesting?
Better and more interesting, let's get back to that. Memorable is a simpler question to answer. Maybe let's start with that.
Okay.
I don't think it's a lot different than saying to you, well, would you memorize this 10-digit number? Or can you memorize this 3-digit number? I mean, if it can be simple, it will be memorable. To overcomplicate things, I think we tend to overpaint, try and be a little too brilliant.
Okay.
I think that's
so simplicity.
First thing, simplicity.
Simplicity.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So that you're talking about simplicity in terms of like the melodies, the notes in the melody, the way you use different melodies within one song even, or within one phrase, or reusing things. Was that the sort of thing you mean?
Clearly stating a theme. I mean, I think you can take one 2-note motif and turn it into a melody. I mean, I think simplicity.
Yeah, and that's cool. Actually, if you think about, like, particularly with your line of work, right, TVs and movies and stuff, there's tons of really memorable theme songs that are really super simple. That only have a few notes.
The memorable ones really are. I mean,
there you go.
Yeah.
And it's the same in jazz solos. So there's some amazing, famous saxophone solos that have got very, very simple melody structures, but probably also lots of space in them. Do you think that's important too?
Space is the most important bit.
Yeah. So it's the bits you don't play.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So your job just got easier.
There you go. So how do you go about, okay, so let's say you're scoring something out for Jessica Jones, and
Sure.
You've got to create a memorable melody for a specific scene. What do you have a process that you go through? I mean, it's interesting because when you're writing for TV or for a movie or something like that, you've got the luxury of time, and Well, I mean, in terms of you can write it and you can rework it.
No, you don't.
Okay. But I'm thinking like you can have one idea and then you can go back and say, well, actually, I might change that and do this instead. Whereas when we're improvising, it's kind of like instant.
I get another crack at it if I want.
Yeah. So, but the process is the same. So, if you've written something, what's the process after that?
Well, you and I talked briefly about this earlier today. I'm sorry, I've just traveled today. My clock is a little messed up. But it is a little bit like creating something you think is perfect and then stripping half of it away and seeing what you're left with. I think it's almost everybody's tendency to overbake it first time through. That would be a great first step.
Yeah. So less is generally better.
I think so. It's something I definitely learned writing for TV. You have to stay. This seems obvious when I say it, but most people haven't thought about this. Writing for TV, which I've been doing for 15 years, I have to stay out of the way of dialogue. I have to stay out of the way of the gunshots and the helicopters. I have to stay out of the way of the birds in the back. I have to stay out of the way of everybody. But I still have to tell a story, so I have to do it with as much economy as I possibly can of orchestration. So each thing has to be important, but don't put anything in that's not important. I mean, and again, simplicity really is the bedrock of it.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I guess that's a massive challenge for you in doing, in writing music in that way. But I guess the thing is, if you do get in the way of the dialogue or other things that are happening in the framework of the scene, it distracts the listener, doesn't it? It distracts the viewer. And it's the same parallel, I think, as when you're improvising. I get asked a lot of questions about playing behind a singer, let's say, when you're playing in a band or playing along with other instrumentalists. And that's a kind of similar thing, isn't it? You know that when you're scoring out for an orchestra or...
Sure. I mean, what you're describing, you're in a combo with, drums, bass, piano, sax, maybe a singer. Well, there's 5 or 6 people there. You need room for everybody, even if you're soloing. There's a bass player playing, and there's drums playing, there's keyboard playing, and you have to leave room for everybody. No one likes the guy who takes up all the bandwidth.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And so that to know how to do that, it comes down to listening and being aware, I suppose.
Which you can't do when you're filling the air full of notes.
Yeah. So whether you're listening to, in your situation, what else is happening in that scene, or whether you're in the combo and you're listening to the piano player and the drummer or the trumpet player or the singer, listening to them and trying to find something that fits in around, and then playing less than what you think.
And we're talking about solos here particularly, so you're also giving up a good opportunity to get ideas from other players. If you leave enough space, you might find that the drummer's doing something rhythmically interesting that you can jump on, and it's a band. It's not it's a solo in the moment. It might be a sax solo now, but you're an ensemble, and you can bounce off of each other, which you need to stop playing to hear what's going on around you.
Man, that is solid gold. Absolutely. So it's a cooperative enterprise.
So rule number 1: stop playing.
Play half what you want to.
And then stop playing.
And then stop playing. Apart from that, it's easy. Yeah.
No, but you just said it. Listening is key. You're going to leave room for some other things to poke through, and you're going to hear some ideas that might not have occurred to you otherwise.
Yeah. I guess that taking inspiration from existing material works when you're writing the stuff that you're writing as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes, oftentimes it is actually, the scene I might be writing for. The other elements in the scene are like other musical instruments. There was one, I'll try and make this story quick, but we get the video with the dialogue separate, so I can turn the dialogue off, so I can, focus on the music, and then turn the dialogue back on so I can see how they fit together. And there was a scene I did years ago that I turned the dialogue off to work, and I was working, and I turned the dialogue on and realized that there was a sound effect that I hadn't been hearing that was in the same key as I had written the music, and it was a high-pitched saw like in a workshop. A wood shop was happening down the hallway, and it was in the same key, and I had to redo everything because you couldn't tell what was music and what was sound effect, and it was a big mess, and I wasn't listening. And I had to undo everything because I wasn't paying attention to what the other band members were doing. I think listening is the key.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big lesson there. And that's actually something that I see a lot of less experienced musicians struggle with, or maybe it's a mistake that they commonly make, particularly, you know, first time you go and play in a jam session, or get together with some other musicians and start playing. We're all very excited about playing music, but
You've been working on this lick.
yeah, man,
all
I gotta
night
get
last
that.
night.
I can play it in 12 keys too. I want to play it in all keys and really, really fast. But the reality is, it's a cooperative enterprise, so we need to be thinking about working together, listening, and interacting, and sharing the experience. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I'd rather hear quarter notes that feel good than hear 30-second notes that are barely there or don't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that comes back to the memorable thing too. I bet there's very few people who could sing you a TV theme song or a melody from a movie that's super complicated, but they can all sing you the Jaws song, or the, you know what I mean, or
Two
the
notes.
opening to, you know, yeah, exactly, or the opening to Star Wars, or you know, memorable melodies. So yeah, simple with space.
Yeah,
Cool. We've nailed it now, haven't we?
solved all.
There's no reason why we can't play perfect melodies every single time.
Just stop playing.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. There's so much great stuff in there, and Jamie is a lovely guy. So much to learn from him. And it's interesting, even talking to a musician from a different part of the music industry, there's so many parallels. There's still loads and loads of things that we can learn from them that we can apply to our own craft of making music. So I hope you found that useful, and I hope now you're going to go off and make some more interesting, memorable melodies when you're improvising on your saxophone. Don't forget, if you want to check out more about Sax School, you can get that 30-day trial, you know, just free. Jump in and have a look and try it out yourself. There's so many great courses in there that'll help you with other parts of the craft of making great improvised solos, but also just the craft of being a good saxophone player. So learning great melodies, learning about things like the blues, learning about techniques and skills that will help to expand your ability as a saxophone player. So that's at mcgillmusic.com. Also, if it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because I'm putting new stuff out all the time. I really don't want you to miss out on that. So, have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you soon. Yeah, man. Can't believe you remember that tune.